Welcome, everyone. I'm Angela Yee, and I'm happy to be your host tonight. It is the 50th anniversary of Shirley Chisholm's bold run for President of the United States of America. And we at the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute, aka SCCI, are so excited that you're joining us for our virtual awards ceremony. Born and bred in Brooklyn, you know I'm proud to be one of so many that have benefited from Shirley Chisholm's iconic legacy. Tonight, we honor those who have worked with and were mentored by Shirley Chisholm herself, lifting Shirley Chisholm and our honorees up tonight. As we say at SCCI, the legacy continues. And now I'm so excited to introduce my friend and president of SCCI. Please welcome Barbara Bullard.
What an honor it is to be a part of Shirley Chisholm's legacy, celebrating the 50th anniversary of her run for President of the United States of America. On behalf of the SCCI Board and advisors, congratulations to our honorees and thank you to our presenters for being a part of this event. During Shirley Chisholm's time in the Assembly, she had a newsletter that went to the people of Brooklyn titled Shirley Goes to the People. During her time in Congress, Shirley availed herself of the radio station at the Capitol to record messages also known as Shirley Goes to the People. In those messages, Shirley shared her triumphs and most importantly, her reasons for making leadership choices. She had a plan to move the civil rights movement from the streets to the halls of power. When Shirley ran for president, she knew that the odds were against her. Her goal was not only to be a catalyst for change in America, but to get enough delegates to be able to direct the Democratic agenda for the people in 1972, and to help bring in a progressive plan that would change the entire nation. Few people knew about Shirley's strategy to help write the Democratic agenda for the election of 1972. Shirley brought her own chair to the table, but she also desired to bring chairs for the various coalitions she felt needed a say in the way the government of the people for the people was run. And just as Shirley went to the people, it is an honor for us to come to Shirley. We come to Shirley on the month of her birth. We come to Shirley on the month of what will be one of the most important election cycles of our common history. And we come to Shirley on the 50th year of her run as Democratic candidate for the presidential nomination. But we also finally come to Shirley to celebrate her roots in Barbados and the fact that November 30th is Barbados National Day. Yes, this month belongs to Shirley. And this evening is a tribute to her legacy. Her work to pass the 26th Amendment, which lowered the voting age to 18. Shirley believed if you were young enough to die in Vietnam, you were young enough to vote. And she worked hard to get a seat for young people at the table. In regards to the rights of all women on the agenda of abortion rights, she specifically defined each American's private bodily rights. On comprehensive child development, she outlined overhauling the educational system that would set every child toward a path of equal citizenship in what she saw as part of her plan to establish a true multicultural democracy. Also in the agenda were fuller tax benefits for citizens and less tax breaks for big businesses, a guaranteed minimum income and a nationwide system of healthcare and jobs and benefits for all veterans. It is therefore worth noting that all the things she wanted to work on in 1972 is much more than I've mentioned, are sadly the very things we need to work on now. Our honorees tonight are helping make Shirley's vision of America come true. They have carried the baton with power and deserve every recognition of their great works. As Shirley would say, you don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. Congratulations to our honorees, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Nadine Hack. Backed by popular demand, SCCI presents the documentary Time for Shirley, directed by Maz Mendez, produced by B. Billard, with the voice of award-winning actress Anika Noni Rose.
There are people in our country's history who don't look left or right, they just look straight ahead. And Shirley Chisholm was one of those people. Driven by a profound commitment to justice, she became the first African-American congresswoman, the first African-American woman from a major political party to run for president, when Shirley was assigned to the House Agricultural Committee, despite the fact that her district was from New York City. She said, apparently all they know here in Washington about Brooklyn is that a tree grew there. But she made the most of her new role, helping to create the supplemental nutrition program that feeds poor mothers and their children. Shirley Chisholm's example transcends her life, and when asked how she'd like to be remembered, she had an answer. I'd like them to say that Shirley Chisholm had guts. And I'm proud to say it. Shirley Chisholm had guts.
Acting under the mandate of the United States Court of Appeals, the Federal Communications Commission has ordered the Columbia Broadcasting System to provide Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm with 1/2 hour of prime airtime. The following broadcast is presented in compliance with that order. The program was recorded from 9:30 to 10 on Sunday morning, June 4th.
Good evening. I'm Nat Hintoff, moderator of tonight's press panel, Time for Shirley Chisholm. For the next half hour, we'll be talking with the first woman candidate for the presidency of the United States. Because there are no CBS newsmen on this panel, by decision of CBS, I want to make clear that each of us is here as a working journalist to interview Congresswoman Chisholm as we would any other candidate. I have no idea whether any of the members of this panel supports Ms. Chisholm's candidacy. I, for instance, though I wish her well, will be voting for another in the New York State primary.
Why do you think you can do this?
When a moment has arrived in history for a certain thing, there's no one that can stop that moment, I believe. And I want everyone to clearly understand that although I am a black woman, that I'm a very qualified woman. I'm a holder of 4 college degrees plus 10 points from a PhD in education and administration. I mention these things to you to let you know that yes, it is true I'm black, and it is true I'm a woman, but that when you begin to compare me with some of the other candidates that are running, I have very high qualifications.
Do you expect to get the blessing of the Democratic Party?
Oh, I think it's quite well known that I don't enter most things with the blessings of any party. I think it's quite well known. Anybody who's followed my political career knows very, very keenly that I am the only unbought and unbossed politician. And I mean that literally. And I think that you have to recognize that because I am not white and because I'm not a male, that I am not going to get the blessings of the power structure in this country. So I think we're fooling ourselves when that question is asked of me in terms of whether I'm going to get their blessings. Of course I'm not going to get their blessings. I stand before you today as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States of America. I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am black and proud. I am not the candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman, and I'm equally proud of that. I am not the candidate of any political bosses or fat cats or special interests. I am the candidate of the people of America.
What do you think of Ms. Chisholm running for presidency?
White man ain't gonna let her be the president, never. If she will become a president, she won't last.
Well, way I'm pushing that we will have a black president this coming term. And the next term, the next 4 years, I'm wishing that we have a next. I'm gonna vote for everyone. Every one of them. I'm pushing forward for that. I want to see the day. If I don't see it, I want some of my kids and grandkids to see it.
Congressman Hakeem Jeffries is Brooklyn's own, representing our 8th Congressional District, which is, by the way, my district. Representative Jeffries is a member of the House Judiciary Committee and House Budget Committee. He is chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. He's also the former whip of the Congressional Black Caucus. Previously co-chaired the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, where he helped develop the For the People agenda, and the first African-American man to serve as one of 7 House impeachment managers in the 2020 Senate trial of President Donald Trump.
Thank you, Angela Yee, for your very generous words of introduction, for your friendship, and for all that you do for the community and for the culture. To the Shirley Chisholm Institute and its amazing leader, Barbara Bullard, so thankful for all of the work that you do to lift up the life and legacy of the Honorable Shirley Chisholm and continue her great work on the issues of importance that she championed during her time with us. It's certainly my honor and privilege to represent the 8th Congressional District, a district that was once represented in large part by the great Shirley Chisholm. But I can think of no person who more embodies the life and the legacy of the great Shirley Chisholm than Barbara Lee, our honoree today with the Unbought and Unbossed Award. Barbara Lee is an amazing public servant. She's a civil rights champion, a voice for the voiceless, a dynamic defender of the disenfranchised, and a powerful, profound, prophetic, principled, passionate, purposeful public servant. It's such a special occasion, I brought the alliteration for Barbara Lee. I've been personally appreciative of the mentorship, advice, and guidance that she has given to me. But most importantly, she's such a deserving awardee because she has really lived and walked and traveled along the trail that was blazed by the Honorable Shirley Chisholm. I can think of no better person to receive this award. She's made such a difference for people of color and disenfranchised communities of every race all across America. And I know because of her spirit, her heart, her soul, her powerful intellect, that the best is yet to come. Congratulations, Barbara. God bless you. And may God continue to watch over you as you do the people's work.
Hello, I am Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and I proudly represent California's beautiful 13th Congressional District which includes Oakland and Berkeley, California. I'd like to sincerely thank Barbara Bullard and the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute for all of your wonderful hard work and your tremendous leadership to preserve Congresswoman Chisholm's legacy and for honoring me with this award. This is truly a very humbling moment for me. Many of you know that Shirley Chisholm was my mentor. She taught me some of the most important lessons of my life. She showed me what moral leadership means, not just standing up for what is right, but standing by those beliefs in the face of overwhelming opposition. She taught me that Black women can't go along to get along. We must change the rules of the game if we are to address institutional racism and sexism, because she said the rules were not made for us. But one of the first and the most foundational lessons she taught me was simply the importance of voting. When I was a young college student on public assistance, raising two phenomenal young boys, and president of the Black Student Union at Mills College in Oakland, California, I invited Congresswoman Chisholm to Mills to address the Black Student Union. I soon realized she was a candidate for the presidency of the United States that I could support. She stood up for children and struggling families and spoke out against racism and sexism and xenophobia. She spoke fluent Spanish and supported immigrant rights. She was an educator who cared about children, was against the Vietnam War, stood up for women's reproductive freedom, fought against poverty, and supported the rights of domestic workers. I could go on, but you all know she was fighting some of the same battles that we fight today, but she did not back down. She understood the power of the people and was excited to receive the endorsement of the Black Panther Party during her presidential campaign 50 years ago. As a community worker with the Black Panther Party, I am so proud to say that I introduced her to Huey Newton and Bobby Seale and the Northern California Black Panther Party, who worked so hard to help us take over 9% of the vote in Alameda County. After her speech, I offered to do anything I could for her campaign. But when she asked me if I was registered to vote, I admitted that I was not. She looked at me and she said, little girl, you can't change the system if you're on the outside looking in. Register to vote. Now, today, we are facing a threat to our democracy. Voting is the core of our democracy, and yet the Supreme Court has gutted the Voting Rights Act and enables state legislatures to undermine this right. Make no mistake, these are attacks on the rights of communities of color, young people, senior citizens, and low-income communities. We must fight back. We must organize. We must vote. We must refuse to accept taking away our rights that our predecessors, like John Lewis and Shirley Chisholm, fought so hard for. They showed us what is possible. Nearly 50 years after Congresswoman Chisholm first mounted her historic run for president as the first Black woman and the first African American to do so, a Black woman was selected as vice president on a major party ticket. And yes, we had a great African American president, Barack Obama. My career in public service and the careers of countless other Black women and women of color, African Americans, can be attributed to Shirley Chisholm. Without Shirley Chisholm, there would be no Congresswoman Barbara Lee or Vice President Kamala Harris or President Barack Obama. It is upholding Shirley Chisholm's legacy and spirit that we must continue to build a coalition of unbought and unbossed Black women and women of color and people of color to change our country. As she said, unless we start to fight and defeat the enemies in our own country, poverty and racism, and make our talk of equality and opportunity ring true, we are exposed in the eyes of the world as hypocrites when we talk about making people free. Thank you all again for this honor. Let's make sure we all get the vote out. protect our democracy in honor of the great, the Honorable Shirley Chisholm.
Good evening. I'm Patty Russo, Executive Director of the Campaign School at Yale. It's a pleasure for me to be here this evening to celebrate our three stellar honorees: Congresswoman Barbara Lee, humanitarian Nadine Hack, and the Reverend Al Sharpton. Thank you for your extraordinary leadership and everything that you do to change the world. It's also a personal honor for me to be here because I knew Congresswoman Chisholm, and I know what she'd be saying to all of us right now. Get out there and vote. We're less than a week away from Election Day. Get your friends to the polls. Make a phone call. Go door to door. Drive your friends to the polls. That's how we honor Congresswoman Chisholm's legacy. That's how we keep her alive in our hearts and our minds. A special thanks to the president of the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute, my dear new friend, Barbara Bullard. Thank you so much for your leadership each and every day. And to Wendy Tyson Wood, my Campaign School at Yale alum and Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute board member, thank you for this life-transforming connection. It's an honor to be here this evening. Let's celebrate tonight. And in the morning, let's get back at it and make sure that our voices are heard on Election Day. Thank you.
Jessica Care Moore is a world-renowned poet, author, activist, and recording artist. She's the executive producer and founder of the 18-year-old Daughters of Betty, powered by Black Women Rock Empowerment Weekend, and the CEO of More Black Press /Harper. She's recorded her poetry with Common, Talib Kweli, Nas, Kareem Riggins, and many more. Her work is prominently displayed on the 4th floor of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History.
We want our bodies back. We want our bodies back. If black women could be cut down, no, removed gently from American terrorism, who would break our fall? Which direction will we travel to feel safe? Wild is the wind. If we could turn in this skin, these sharpened bones, this brain full of power and history, who would we resemble? Invisible doesn't come in black. How many nervous breakdowns? How many funeral black dresses? How many fibroids? How many nooses? How many of our bodies must be raped, cut into pieces, thrown inside garbage bags, buried? How many of us blossom a beautiful tree of life and pray their pride isn't cut down the middle, reduced to trunks, or a close friend doesn't die, climbing their limbs, attempting to simply grow outside this gritty soil they were planted? I put a spell on you. Holly Hobby ovens, Girl Scout cookies, and Barbie dolls. Don't prepare our revolutionary daughters born with capes and wings to have a pig's knee pushed into their backs. Girls raised by wolves taught to disappear, to be quiet, to not talk about it. How much black breath is allowed space in the state of Texas, a place that has sucked the life out of countless, miscounted, uncounted, brown, poor women die here. I got life. Sandra Bland got the death penalty for a traffic stop. Her body was 28 years young. How to make sense of our bodies. Bodies caused by cigarettes. Bodies smoked out their own neighborhoods. Bodies with abandoned lungs and hearts. Bodies mistaken for women when they are still girls. How do we construct a survival guide, a poem for our daughters' bodies without throwing up our breakfast? How do our mothers' bodies not implode after telling our sons to comply, to not speak, to keep their heads down, to allow their bodies to be dragged by racist police? Jim Crow ain't never flown with this much wingspan. Eagles running for safety now, for the reach is deep in southern and midwest. Shadows the east, lands in the west. Texas, you will always be Mexico in denial. Poet Ron Allen asked for his body back in 1996, and we are still waiting. We want our bodies back. We want our bodies back. We want our bodies back. We want the return to mother, without blood, without brains exposed, without humiliation, without bruises, without glass, without fire. We want our bodies back. We want our cities back. We want our culture back. We want our land back. We want our streets back. We want our freedom. We want our justice. We want our bodies back. We want our bodies back. We want them wrapped in white silk. We want them paraded around the White House. We want these flags you stand up for at baseball games at half-mast. We want national holidays to honor our bodies, our knees, our prayers, our ears, our genitals, our eyes, our fingers, our feet. We want 21 gun salutes when we enter a room. We want our bodies back. We want them anointed in oils. We want them worn around your neck. We want them remembered. We want them worshiped on Sunday. We want our magic you try to model. We want our essence you attempt to steal. We want our elegance, our sex, our walk, our cool, our recipes, our intelligence, our science, our stars, our history. I want my Moroccan nose. I want my holy water press. I want my Messiah legs. I want my alien arms. I want my Ivory Coast mouth. I want our breath back. I want our time back. I want your foot off our girls' backs. I want all your badges back. I want you to evaporate into dust like swatted moths. Don't cut me down from the noose. Let my legs dangle for the devil. What a spectacular magic show. Why you turn the cameras off? Why you turn the cameras off? This is a simple ballet. You got front row. This is your venue. This cell, this hole is no one's home. Is no place for a woman to die. You probably never heard of Judith Jameson, Katherine Dunham. Oh, we know how to get our legs in the air. We know how to elevate, use our bodies to tell a story of middle passage, of survivals, of lynchings. You have always left our bodies under your control. Don't you touch me. Don't you take me down. Don't touch my body. Don't touch my music. Don't touch my patience. Don't touch my car door. Don't come near my window. Don't talk to me in that tone. This body of work got work to do. I'm resurrecting my body in new forms daily. Watch for me in your deepest sleep. Black is the color of my true love's hair. Listen for my songs. Watch for my walk. Listen for my voice. My black girl attitude. Watch my body resist your death traps. Watch me rise. Watch my rebirth. Watch us rise up. Watch us rise up from this new Jim Crow and these new unspoken apartheid laws. We want our bodies back. We want our bodies back. We will take them, protect them, remember them, remember you. Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor. We will never forget your brown body. Your mind, your pride, your spirit, your love, your vow to do God's work. We want your drive from Illinois to Waller County back. We want all our daughters back, and we want them back now.
April Ryan is the longest-serving Black female White House correspondent. She has a 25-year tenure spanning 5 presidential administrations. She regularly appears on CNN as a political analyst and is the Washington, D.C. bureau chief on the Griot. April is the author of the book, Black Women Will Save the World, an Anthem.
My name is April Ryan, and it's an honor to present the next award, Truth to Power, and it goes to the Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Al, congratulations. This award is so deserving, as you have been speaking truth to power to presidents for many years. But it all started way back when you were known as Alfred to Shirley Chisholm. You were one of her agents of change. You worked with her as a young man in her office to help her in her attempts to be president of the United States in 1972. And from there, you kept going. You have stood by, stood up for, and spoken about Black America and its needs to the heights of power. You are a man of change who speaks truth to power. And we are so honored and so privileged and happy that this moment is for you. Reverend Al Sharpton, congratulations on your award, Truth to Power.
Greetings to the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute, and particularly and especially to Barbara Bullitt, who we all know and respect as an entrepreneur, publicist, writer. She does it all. Producer, B. Bullitt LLC. I am so honored to be a recipient of the Truth to Power Award for the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute and for this virtual awards ceremony. When I was 18 years old, I was one of the national youth coordinators for Shirley Chisholm for president in 1972. When I was even younger, at 13, I had joined the SCLC Operation Breadbasket chapter in New York. I was 13 years old. And it was 1968, the year that Dr. King was killed. It was also the year that Shirley Chisholm ran and became the first Black woman to serve in the U.S. Congress. I cite that to say that I grew up nurtured by Miss Chisholm, who her and Reverend Jesse Jackson and William Jones nurtured me in my teen years, and later James Brown in my late teens on going forward. And I was raised in my DNA to speak truth to power, to be honored in this way in the name of a woman who not only helped to shape me, but shape America. There would not be a Kamala Harris. There would not be a Stacey Abrams. There would not have been a Barack Obama had it not been for Shirley Chisholm. So I take this as one of the great honors in my life. Bible says, honor thy mother and father, that your days, not theirs, your days, will be long. You're blessed when you honor those whose shoulders you stand on. And I stand on Shirley Chisholm's shoulders and humbly accept this award. Thank you. God bless you.
Greetings, everyone. Let me begin by thanking the brilliant and beautiful Barbara Bullitt, her team, the leadership, members, and friends of the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute, and last but certainly not least, tonight's host and SCCI board member, my sister friend Angela Yee, for providing me with the honor of addressing you at this second annual Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute virtual awards ceremony. I'd also like to congratulate my fellow honorees, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, the Reverend Al Sharpton, Nadine Hack, for their hard work and commitment to justice, fairness, and equity that has been the hallmark of their life's work and has had an immeasurable impact on our lives and profoundly positive developments in our civil society. I'm Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, and I proudly represent New York's 9th Congressional District in Central and South Brooklyn. And though we are not together in person today, truly nothing brings me a greater sense of joy than to be in the same conversation with those determined to celebrate, commemorate, and replicate the incomparable legacy of the late, great, Honorable Shirley Anita St. Hill Chisholm. Let me also say what an absolute privilege it is to accept such a profound distinction from the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute. We are all aware of the iconic history of the Honorable Miss Shirley Chisholm. We are all aware that she changed the trajectory for gender and racial leadership in this nation forever. 50 years ago, when she began her historic campaign for the American presidency. And we are all aware that Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute picked up the torch and followed her lead only 5 years later. In the years since, our country has much to celebrate, including a Black woman earning her place in the White House. But our young people need to know that that did not happen by accident. That progress took passion, perseverance, and dedication in order to be achieved. It took someone like our Shiro, Shirley Chisholm, who was not only fearless in her endeavors, but unapologetic in fighting for change. It took someone who is unbought and unbossed. And I should add, someone who should be eternally honored in our capital with a statue. I believe it is incumbent on all of us to carry on the torch she lit to guide America to the promised land she envisioned for all of us. As some of you might know, the seat I hold in Congress is the very one once represented by the Honorable Shirley Chisholm. And as I stand before you today in pursuit of my 9th term in that seat, I've come to reflect on both the progress we have reached, but also the many barriers that have been erected to progress that are confronting our ballots this year. From the inequities that we face every day to the oppression confronting women across the nation who have had their rights stolen overnight, to the economic abuse that has long exacerbated these problems, and more. The fights Shirley Chisholm joined half a century ago still rage today. So folks, we will never overcome them if we don't vote. It's not just our responsibility to our nation, but to the countless young people in this country who should not have to join these same fights in another 50 years. We must remember, Shirley Chisholm's legacy isn't just reflected in me and in all of you who have so long carried it, nor is it only reflected in the lives of all Americans who have benefited from the path she forged, but it is reflected in the lives of every American who is still waiting for their better tomorrows. It is reflected in this nation replete with powerful Black women and girls unafraid of repressive ideals or glass ceilings. It's reflected after all these years because individuals such as yourselves refuse to let it stop shining. I have no doubt together we will continue to do the work necessary to advance our civil society in the direction the Honorable Shirley Chisholm has pointed out to allow all of us to benefit from the American dream. So thank you so much for your honor this evening, and thank you again for your meaningful work. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay blessed, and let's get out there and vote.
And now let's get into part 2 of A Time for Shirley.
I think she is the only candidate that offers anything to me. She said more that I can relate to than any other candidate I've heard so far. I haven't heard them in person, but I've heard them on Meet the Press, and I've heard them, read what they said in the newspaper. And I like what she says, and I think she's got guts.
Well, I think she has very much a chance of being president if she can get the nomination. This business of the primaries and the delegates is something else again. But I think she's offering all of America, including white men, something that they haven't had a chance at for a long time, which is an honest candidate.
You mean you're going to vote for her?
I certainly would.
Do not forget, tomorrow, Democratic primary. Vote for the chicken place, the unbought candidate.
And they don't understand that something new is happening in America. And this campaign, the Shirley Chisholm campaign, is the note of the new politics. The rest of it is just making tired old noises. I can't get excited about any of it. I am excited about Shirley Chisholm's candidacy.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to have Fred Soto, our city commissioner.
On behalf of the city of Sarasota, we welcome you here. We got something you can wear and remember our beautiful city here.
No se olviden de votar mañana en la primaria.
Before we begin, let me take just a moment to say that ABC News originally had invited Senator McGovern and Senator Humphrey, the two leading candidates for the Democratic presidential nomination, to appear on this program. Friday night, the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. ruled that Mrs. Chisholm must also be invited to participate.
From the panel, Mary Breasted.
Mrs. Chisholm, Bella Abzug has called your candidacy a symbolic one in her book. Do you agree with that?
Well, it may be symbolic in terms of the fact that never before in the history of this country has a woman seriously run for the candidacy for the presidency of this country. So therefore, from that standpoint, it has to be regarded as symbolic. But in addition to possibly being symbolic, since a woman is running very seriously and has been doing that for the past 7 months, although many people don't want to accept this fact, I think it is a real candidacy because I would not have been going all over this country for 7 months, as contrasted to some gentleman who only started about 4 months ago running for the presidency of this country just merely for my health.
But yet you have gotten only really 3% of the popular vote. What has kept you in?
I think what has kept me in is because nobody knows what's going to happen at the convention.
That question, Mrs. Chisholm, forget the personality. If your own candidacy for the top spot should fail, would you actively seek to be on the ticket? Are you now saying that you think you could serve as Vice President of the United States, strengthening the ticket?
I could serve as President of this country, believe it or not.
Lori Cumbo was appointed as the Commissioner of Cultural Affairs for the City of New York by Mayor Eric Adams in March 2022. Commissioner Cumbo previously served as Majority Leader in the New York City Council and represented the City Council's 35th District for 8 years. She wrote over 40 laws and resolutions in that role, including creating the first ever Mayor's Office to End Gun Violence and the Mayor's Office of Victim Services. Cumbo focused her career on institution building and worked diligently throughout her tenure in the City Council to secure permanent art cultural homes. Commissioner Cumbo is a lifelong Brooklynite. She's currently overseeing the largest budget in the Department of Cultural Affairs history.
Hello. It is my honor to present the Catalyst for Change Award to our humanitarian, Nadine Hatt. What a truly inspiring and deserving woman. She is an extraordinary leader who is so deserving of this award tonight. Nadine is an inspiring figure who lives true to the values of Shirley Chisholm, such as grit, determination, and a commitment to real change. She was named one of the top 100 thought leaders on trustworthy business behavior globally. She advises Fortune 500 company executives, heads of state, and other leaders all throughout the world. Her list of partners and allies include individuals such as the late, great Nelson Mandela, as well as Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Everyone has so many wonderful things to say about Nadine, but I'd like to highlight two. The late, great Honorable Nelson Mandela had this to say about Nadine. When I was in prison, it was very good to know I had powerful friends like Nadine Hatt working on behalf of South Africa's freedom. Now that South Africa is engaged in the arduous process of reconstruction and development, my colleagues and I regularly rely upon the perspective guidance provided by Nadine. Gloria Steinem, founder of Miss Magazine, had this to say about Nadine. Nadine Hatt is the organizer extraordinaire. She has the uncanny ability to assemble exactly the right people and bring together unique partnerships. Her exceptionally clear ability to envision what doesn't yet exist, but should, goes in advance of reality and changes reality. I could go on and on because there are so many wonderful people who had so many great things to say to Nadine tonight, but we wanted to celebrate you, honor you, and give you your flowers tonight. So thank you so much. You have done so much for our community, for our country, and for this globe. And tonight we celebrate you, Nadine Hack. Good night.
Thank you so much. Nothing could be a greater honor than receiving the Catalyst for Change Award, especially from the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute. I was so privileged to have Shirley Chisholm as my mentor when I worked on her 1964 campaign for the New York State Assembly. Growing up in Brooklyn as my role model, Shirley taught me that racism, sexism, classism, and militarism are inextricably interconnected. From Shirley, I learned about and committed myself to what today we call intersectional organizing. Each time I watch the documentary film about her life, Unbossed and Unbought, I get goosebumps because Shirley was so very prescient. As the trailblazing first Black and first woman candidate for a major party nomination, everything she talked about in her 1972 presidential campaign is as valid today as it was then. And it reminds me of how utterly fierceless she was. Shirley spoke quietly, but you could feel her steely resolve in whatever she said, whether it was speaking to us volunteers or in public. She taught me how to use my voice, how to be seen, heard, and respected. When she looked at me, at once gentle and yet quite stern, I absorbed her message. Stand your ground, claim your authority, do the right thing always. Shirley spoke truth to power, and I hope that I always will too. In the long relay race for a more just world, I'm so deeply grateful for her example, and I hope to pass her lessons on to the generations now carrying the torch. I spoke about Shirley's profound influence on me as one of the first interviewees for the oral archives of the Shirley Chisholm Project at Brooklyn College, and later for an interview in New York Magazine. I'm now writing about her impact on me in my book, The Power of Connectedness, with a foreword by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So today, I'm truly humbled to receive this award. Thank you so much.
Greetings. My name is Dr. David Johns, and I am the Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition. NBJC is the nation's only civil rights organization that is both intentional and unapologetic in being dedicated to both racial equity and LGBTQIA+ equality. Our mission is to end racism and homophobia and LGBTQ+ stigma, bias, and discrimination such that all Black people, emphasis on all, can be free. That is, otherwise be healthy, happy, and whole at a minimum. And this is the same mission that fueled Sister Leader Shirley Chisholm's work. She was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus, which is still working to this day to achieve greater equity for all Black people, especially who Howard Thurman would call the dispossessed, or the least amongst us. Her historic 1972 run for the Democratic nomination for president paved the path for Black LGBTQ+ and same-gender-loving members of our community to run and get elected to office. Shout out to NBJC's Good Trouble Network. During her run as president, Mrs. Chisholm showed herself as an accomplice, an active accomplice, by affirming her support of gay rights, She also worked to pass the Equality Act, the first federal gay rights legislation of the nation, which still needs to be codified. Call your members of the Senate today. Ellen Roberts, the lesbian delegate for Shirley Chisholm, said at the convention, quote, "The point is not just to have sympathetic people urging for gay rights. What Mrs. Chisholm has achieved is a chance for gay people to work on these issues, and only gay people can give our rights first priority." Shout out to those who understand the importance of intersectionality in theory and praxis. I want to offer my congratulations to this year's honorees, the indomitable Congresswoman Barbara Lee, humanitarian Nadine Hack, and my brother, leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm also sending lots of love to your host and my dear friend, the brilliant Angela Yee, as well as my friend and president of the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute, Barbara Bullard. Each of you has continued the legacy of Mrs. Chisholm, fighting for freedom, liberation, and equity for all. And as Fannie Lou Hamer taught us, none of us are free unless and until all of us are free. Let us all continue to toil and pursue joy as we create the world that Mrs. Chisholm imagined. Have a great rest of your program.
And now here's part 3 of A Time for Shirley.
NBC News reports the 1972 Democratic Convention.
Shirley takes the agendas from the Women's Power Movement and the Black Power Movement to the convention in the hopes of shaping a unified Democratic Party platform. The two movements, while fighting for many of the same rights, can only see their differences. Shirley is too black for the women and too female for the men. But Shirley continues the fight for the people. Do you personally support Shirley Chisholm?
Personally, I have considered Senator McGovern the best white male candidate.
They dissipate in the potential of black delegate strength at the convention if you come here and try to run a black in a symbolic protest campaign, and that's about what Shirley Chisholm's campaign will amount to.
Sure. There's one point that I would like to make, because many people come to the political arena raising the question of whether you can win or lose, and that's an important issue. What happens if Shirley Chisholm does or does not win the California primary? I personally think that Shirley Chisholm can win, particularly in a 4 or 5 person split. I think the potential is very great and very possible, and the point is we've got to get it into people's heads that it is possible for Shirley Chisholm to win. And we're talking about striking out on a whole new course politically in this country if we're going to make it a viable society for people. And so Shirley Chisholm's campaign and candidacy, in my estimation, takes that next serious step. And if we get hung up with the psychological genocide that says, well, gee, we can't win. The point is, they told me when I announced it I was crazy, but we won. And the point is, if people really are serious about putting a new kind of alternative out there, then Shirley Chisholm candidacy, in my estimation, says put up or shut up. And that's an important point.
Burn myself up with what I see, and it makes me more determined than ever to see if I can't conquer it. And I know I can't conquer it, but it's deep with me. It's not, it's intense, it's deep. I see too much suffering. And then I want to tell these politicians around here, they don't care. They don't care.
Her goal was to gather enough delegates to negotiate advancements for black people, Latinos, gays, and women. She almost got enough. But as the tension at the convention rose, even her greatest supporters turned away.
Dellins, I know he has supported in recent months the candidacy of Congresswoman Chisholm out of conviction, out of the same kind of sincerity that he brings to this endorsement of my candidacy here today.
The black politicians are no different from the white politicians. They've made their deals, they've made their contracts because they didn't believe that Mrs. Chisholm knows how to maneuver or what have you. That has always been their problem with me. Don't pay her any money. But, you know, you can't wish me away. You can't.
Was daring to run worth it?
Of course, it's very important that someone dares to run to let everybody else in America knows that the presidency of this country is not the exclusive domain of just white males. There are other kinds of people that make up America that need to have some input on the highest level. And of course, if you're going to break that tradition, you've got to have courage and you've got to have guts. And so therefore, because I've always had courage and I've always had guts, I dare to run. It's as simple as that.
Rising every day. The path ahead is troubled. I need a guide to show me the way. Oh,
good evening. Good evening. He's talking about the American dream. But it's not only the women and the blacks, it's also the Indians.
Who is the American dream set up for? Who was it set up for? All Americans? Supposedly. There it is. Supposedly. What did the Constitution used to say? A Negro was what? 3/5 of a man.
Yeah, women couldn't vote till 1920.
Whose fault was that? Who ran the country? Who ran it? It's about time that the minority people came into being, right? All right, then. Therefore, I say vote for Shirley Chisholm.
SCCI is honored to announce the annual William R. Howard Scholarship in tribute to our board member, emeritus, lifelong friend, and campaign finance manager of Shirley Chisholm. The scholarship will soon be open for submissions for college-bound students, providing support for supplies and books. Stay posted on our social media for updates or go to shirleychisholminstitute.org. Well, everyone, that's all for now. And on behalf of the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute, thank you for joining us this historic year. But you know we are not done yet. There's more to come. And please remember to vote. In the words of Shirley Chisholm, the one thing you've got going, your one vote. Make sure you look for us on shirleychisholminstitute.org. We would love your donations. Have a wonderful evening.